Folks, I'm here with the internet's favorite Greek and Latin teacher, Luke Amadeus Ranieri. And we've talked previously about resources for learning Greek and Latin, at least Latin, and about what Latin is like as a language. But what I was thinking about is on the literature side, someone wants to get acquainted with classical Greco-Roman literature and maybe doesn't want to learn Greek and Latin.
Oh boy.
What would you say go and read to get enchanted with this world of literature? What's your intro to classical literature reading list look like?
That's tough because it depends what you want to get into. There's stuff on the historical, political side. There's stuff on the more mythological side. There's definitely important classics that are worth knowing something about, of all of those genres. And the poetry, yeah, that's tough. The poetry, if you end up liking the poetry in translation, I don't think I've ever read a whole poem in translation from Latin and meant it, like deliberately done that. But maybe, because in Latin the poetry is so good. Nevertheless, knowing something about it, so I'd be very reticent to recommend poetry early because I know how good it is in Latin, and I know any translation won't even come close to giving you a sense of the experience. But great poets, Horace, Juvenal and Martial, Ovid and Catullus, but par excellence is Virgil. He wins every point, which is actually from a Horace poem. Omne vincit punctum. I forgot the line exactly, but he wrote not just the eclogues and the Georgics, but the Aeneid, the epic, which carries on the story and is sort of a fanfic kind of thing based off the Iliad and Odyssey, but in Latin, and that is, I think, worth. You probably want to, if you're doing Greco-Roman in particular, you probably want to read the Odyssey and the Iliad, then the Odyssey, and then the Aeneid, in that order. If that's just what you want to do in translation, you'll get a lot out of that.
And on Iliad, Odyssey, Aeneid, do you have any particular translations that you're confident?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but Fitzgerald's a famous translator. The Fagles translation of the Odyssey is excellent. But
we did talk about how much of this literature was performed and received orally. And so there are audiobooks available that seem to be done by very talented people. Could you speak to that?
I love Ian McKellen's Odyssey audiobook. It's the Fagles translation, and then Odysseus coming back finally reunited with his sweet Penelope. So it's just great. And Ian McKellen's a wonderful performer, both vocally and on film. So that I could definitely recommend. So if you want to start at the beginning, there's also the Dan Stevens audiobook, which is I think the Fitzgerald translation for the Iliad. So if you want to listen to them instead of read them, I think you'll enjoy them more, frankly. And that's
then that's a major recommendation. And the little samples that you played for me did sound really super, actually.
Yeah.
But that's so much closer to the way that most people would have experienced them in the ancient world, right?
Yeah.
You would have had it performed to you rather than reading it privately.
Exactly. And like I was mentioning to you, and as I've oft mentioned already, I think certainly to students of mine, if not on the channel, the way that reading was accomplished in classical antiquity was very different. Like the analogy I gave you, if you and I and a few others of our friends, we get Luke Gordon, we can get anyone else, and we say we're all scholars in residence at Alexandria in the 2nd century. We are there and we just hear, hey, the next book or the life of Alexander has they just got it off the boat, they made a copy, and now we can go read it in the library.
You hear that pica?
I hear that pica. Hi, pica. Boy, what a wonderful creature. And
there he is.
Oh, there he is. Wait, I'm going to film him. Be still. Don't move. I'm not. I'm talking to pica. So.
But what you would do
you would go down to the library together, and then you would, but there would be only one copy. So today it's Jackson's turn to read, tomorrow will be my turn to read, and then Luke Gordon and so forth. We go around, and that way we'd all hear the book. We get a turn at reading, but we would have read maybe at most 10% of it with our own eyes. So most reading was accomplished through listening. Poor man's audiobook, and more wealthy people had slaves who read to them. Uh,
Wealthy man's audiobook.
well, but then it's a wealthy man's audiobook. A primitive, certainly a technologically primitive form, but that's so much of ancient literature is meant to be read aloud. I can't speak for necessarily doing that in all translation, but definitely for the epics, I think you'll enjoy them a lot more potentially because the person's reading it, as long as they know something about what they're reading, they care about it in a way that you might not, because you don't know the importance of who Dido is or who Eumaeus is and these kinds of things. But when you have Ian McKellen say, and then the old swineherd, Eumaeus, walking up the path, and he cares about it when he's reciting it that way, and then you care about it. And that's enjoyable.
Well, I think those are solid recommendations on the epics, right?
Yeah.
Especially the audiobook recommendations.
Yeah.
Let's say I've read Homer, I've read the Aeneid, or listened to them. I'm impressed, I'm interested, I want to get a little bit more immersed. Now maybe I want something else with some narrative, but a little bit later. What's the next direction you would go?
You want a story or?
Story is what I'm saying,
Story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think of novels when I think of that. And I'm very fond of the 1.5 novels that we have reserved in Latin, which are Apuleius's The Golden Ass and Petronius's Satyricon. Of the Satyricon, we only have a fragment, and it's very long. So there was some enormous text that unfortunately we don't have much of, but it's interesting what's there. You get an idea of the weird depravity of wealthy people in the first century with Petronius. And then with Apuleius, that's weird, man. I do think it's worth reading because it's, especially after you read something like the Iliad or the Odyssey, once you do that, you'll get a sense of, wow, this is quite evocative. There's a lot of emotion and feeling. This is not a stuffy, cold, it's not like marble statues, heroic things. It's actually quite alive. But with something like Apuleius's Golden Ass, which you've read, this one? Oh, it's weird,
I
man.
couldn't swear that I have.
Oh, it's so weird. So it starts out with a guy named Lucius, and he wants to learn about magic. So he's fascinated by it. He's on the trail. He's traveling to Thessaly, where apparently it's their magical people, like witches and things like that. And so he ends up on the trail. It's so interesting. He describes like what you do. You're walking on the trail on your horse, and you'll kind of camp out together because it's safe. And you're like, oh, hey, how you doing? You're just going to camp and you eat and you tell stories around the campfire. Someone tells him a story about something that happens to him. Pause for the ground squirrel.
Okay, Apuleius.
Oh, yes, Apuleius.
You're camping out, telling
Camping out, and then tells this amazing story, and I ought not to spoil it for you. I would say just go find a translation, they exist for free online, of Apuleius Metamorphoses, or The Golden Ass, book 1, and just read it and be like shocked at the black comedy horror of it. And it is amazingly like, I cannot believe this is something from antiquity. I think ancient literature had to be really stuffy, like some philosophy of Cicero or Caesar's Gallic Wars or something. There's a lot that can be interesting in those works too, but the almost like a Stephen King novel level of, you can relate to the characters, you know what they're feeling, you know how panicked they are, what's going on. But yeah, I ought not to spoil it. It's quite entertaining.
So to segue from that, we do often have a sense that old literature must be stuffy.
Yeah.
Which, having just read the Odyssey, again, not at all.
Nope.
Right. So I'm someone who, let's kind of shade away, maybe I'm someone who has had a little bit of experience with classical literature in school, but maybe I was reading Cicero, Caesar, Plato, right? And that's kind of made me say, this is all boring.
Yeah.
What's something else you might recommend, narrative or not, that would kind of help me dispel that feeling like, this is boring.
I think you should read one of the novels on the Greek side. The Greek novels are even better.
Okay.
I think the Greek novels are maybe the best part of all the ancient literature.
Well,
part of it is from the perspective of someone who wants to learn and to teach the languages, because since they keep your attention and they're very interesting and you care about the characters, just like a film, you want to finish it, which means you have a long piece, if you're trying to read it in the target language, that you'll actually be able to get to all the way to the end of it. So that's very, very enjoyable. So those 5 are Callirrhoe is the first, then in an Ephesian Tale, Daphnis and Chloe, Leucippe Cleitophon, and Ethiopica. I would recommend any of them, but easy would choose from would be Daphnis and Chloe, which has been imitated, or not imitated, it's been an inspiration for musicians and artists for all throughout the Renaissance. To a lesser extent, Cali Roe and An Ephesian Tale have been an inspiration as well. But just they were an inspiration to literature like Shakespeare. And so if you read one of these very first novels, you'd be like, this is where all these tropes come from. So if you want a serious one that's a little bit more like Twilight, Cali Roe. If you want something that's more like Pirates of the Caribbean, An Ephesian Tale.
Did you say a once thing is like Twilight?
Yeah. Like as far as, have you ever watched Twilight?
With the riff track.
Well, that's pretty much the same experience.
Or are you talking about the 1990s Twilight movie with like Susan Sarandon?
No, I mean the what's his name, Robert Pattinson and so forth. It's they're very the Cali Roe because it's taking itself seriously, whereas An Ephesian Tale is not, as far as we can tell. But I think those help as well because you get a sense of what the experience was like to be an ancient person in this world and with these situations and cares, and so you get a sense of what that. Yeah, it's really helpful to understand what that world is like. But they're almost like, what they remind me of are historically based novels. Like they're what's it called? This Crown of Leaves. And there's a bunch of novels about the time of Julius Caesar and things like that. So it's like an historical novel, but it was written by people in that contemporary past.
Sure.
So you don't have to. There's not as much hand-holding for like, they go to the temple and what do they do there? That happens. But so you have less description that helps the modern person understand. But I still like that because you can still understand these little aspects of their lives and society. So beyond novels, all the historians, if you like history at all, they're all very good, all very interesting. So if you're interested in getting the actual, instead of reading in a history book, reading Livy, reading Cassius Dio, reading Plutarch and Polybius, then those are profoundly informative. If you're very interested in history, you might try to go in historical order. Start with, say, Herodotus, which starts kind of like in mythology and then comes into history when he gets into the Persian Wars.
I'm hesitant to recommend Herodotus to somebody starting out, though. I don't feel like he's exciting to read, no matter how exciting the stuff he's talking about is.
That's so interesting. Can you please say that again? Because I think you just captured my opinion on this. I'd never heard it articulated so well. Say that again.
I just don't think he's an exciting writer.
Wow.
It may be the translations I've read, but
No.
I just don't like it's just
That's
like,
what I think too.
You're talking about interesting things. I'm fascinated by the topic maybe, but man, can you make it more interesting? You know what I mean? Some people are good at this, some people aren't.
That is my take as well, and
Okay.
it's a hot take. A lot of people. Oh yeah, Herodotus is so interesting, so great to read. In ancient Greek, though,
Take that, Herodotus.
not even the same dialect. Writes in a different dialect. He writes
Or
in Ionic.
Ionian, right?
Yeah, which is awful. I mean, not what I'm used to. I don't like things that are different, Jackson. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I do actually. That can sustain my interest real well if something is in like a language that's just interesting in and of itself. It's the entire reason to read Gothic.
It mostly just makes you feel like you're dyslexic when you read Ionic, because it's it's like because you get comfortable reading normal standard ancient Greek, which is Attic and Koine. And even if you're used to reading Homer, it's just he doesn't do the same things as Homeric Greek, which is mostly Ionic, and I don't know. Anyway, that's not quite pertinent to the discussion of how to.
Interesting though that we both feel this way.
Yeah.
How about going down a different track here? I'd be interested to hear what your recommendations are as far as the readability of philosophers.
I'm fond of philosophy.
Okay.
So if you're fond of it, then you should read it. If not, then you should get
Who
Plato.
would you,
Plato.
okay.
I think it's so interesting because we know there's a lot of people, scholars today, who still are trying to understand exactly whom was he writing for, Plato, what was he trying to say, and this or that. But if you come with sort of an open mind, that can be helpful. But I think it might be helpful with something like philosophy. There's a YouTuber who is a philosophy teacher whose name escapes me at the moment, but I'll send it to you later. And I would recommend, because before I started reading Plato more recently, I wanted to actually get a primer on philosophy. And in his classes, he's recorded a lot of them, he explains what we're supposed to understand and get out of them, which helped me a lot trying to then read it in Greek, because I was able to that part, I can then deal with the complication of acquiring new vocabulary and understanding the philosophy. But as for the philosophy,
Pica right behind you.
what's that?
There's a pica right behind you.
Can I record him?
I don't know if
Is he on camera?
Oh, he's kind of passed out of my sight, but he was on the rock right behind you.
Oh, hi, Pica.
He might even be on film.
Well, but thank you. That was nice to know. The
I'll keep an eye out.
yeah,
You're saying Plato.
Plato. So I think it's useful to learn about some of Plato and see if that what maybe get a book which does a sample of the that does a sample of the literature and gets you into it. So then if you really like it, if you're not just trying to inform yourself about what Plato is and what he's trying to say about the ideas and the ideal forms and his insane plan for the Republic and that book, which at some point in the middle of the Republic, after he talks about a lottery, this is the weird part, there should be a lottery where the middle class, who are the warrior class, they should have a lottery for who should be able to mate with whom, and that will be determined by the philosopher kings. But no, it'll be a lottery, except that the philosopher king will actually rig it so the people with the best genetic compatibility or whatever are the ones that, it's like eugenics, and it's this really weird
Sometimes
thing. And then after that, at the beginning of the next book, he's like, but I'm just speaking off the top of my head. I don't really know what I'm talking about.
sometimes it feels like the bad guy just spilling it out for you.
Yeah.
I never,
So you have to. So Plato is not like. I don't think Plato should be worshipped as some bad people ended up doing, worshipped as like this is the beginning and end of philosophy. It's only, he was mostly experimenting with thought, and I think a lot of what he said is resonant, but it's not necessarily for, actually applicable. So it's neat to see, this is an interesting experiment. It's like when people in history have experimented with different technologies that didn't come to be useful, or even extinct forms of technology, like iPods are pretty much aren't produced anymore, or
Steam
VHS engines. Or steam engines are seldom used except for. So it's kind of like that if you think of the idea of invention and inventing ideas and creatively thinking about it. Not that you're supposed to take everything he's saying as actual advice. I think that goes for a lot of philosophers.
Stoics.
You got your Epictetus. Epictetus it got a little. I only read the manual, the Enchiridion. I've only read that. But that's still, if you like Stoic philosophy, you're interested in that topic, you would then it's literally the manual to Stoic philosophy, so you would actually enjoy it. By the way, an Ephesian tale is evidently a parody of Stoic philosophy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So one character is like, the main characters, spoilers, are enslaved after they were taken at sea. They're both of wealthy families, so they're obviously horrified by this situation, and they're both very attractive. And the young man, the main character's name is Abrachames, the daughter of the pirate king who has enslaved them, has fallen in love with Abrachames and sends him a letter, which is a carrot and a stick, and says, listen, it's okay, we'll get rid of your wife, you can live I'll ask my father, he'll persuade him that you can live with me, and you'll be wealthy, and it's going to be really nice, and if you don't, then you and everyone associated with you will be sorry. And so he writes back and says, it doesn't matter, he writes back a letter to her saying, you can do what you want with my body, as much pain as the body of a slave can endure, and all these things, but I will never, submit to you. And so she has him horribly tortured, and the idea at that, like a Stoic would be like, it doesn't matter what you can do because my mind, it can get through it. You can't harm my mind with these physical things and discomforts. But after it, he's so he's not broken, but he's really not in a good way after this experience. So it's kind of basically proving the notion that maybe Stoic philosophy isn't everything. At least that's the point.
Maybe your body really is part of you.
Yeah.
I like Epictetus. I like Seneca.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, his writing. There's so much value in the different fields and the different types of philosophy and the contradictions that they come bearing, and I think it's incumbent on us to read widely, read deeply into history, read these different samples of literature. You'll find stuff as you go through, and more recommendations. I can't think of any recommendations off the top of my head. I could recommend for Greek, on the Greek side, the Horrocks book of Greek, A History of the Language and Its People, in which he gives you you can skip the linguistic stuff if that's not interesting to you, but at least you get the whole history of the Greek language from the earliest stuff that we have to medieval and modern.
Okay.
So that's it. So if you find a book like that that gives you these comfortable ways to get into it, if you're not sure you'd automatically love it, instead of reading the original but in translation, yeah, that could be helpful as a guide to give you a sense of what you're supposed to get out of it before you engage with it.
Speaking of medieval and modern, any medieval or modern Greek literature that you like?
Anna Komnene, who wrote the Alexandriad about her father, which is fascinating. I've only read pieces of it, but I can't speak for it in translation. But the Greek is quite ancient in like very much like ancient Greek, as far as the grammar and the style, in a number of ways. What else? Modern. I'm very poorly read after like the 5th century AD.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other titles you would particularly add? Any genres we didn't hit there? We talked epic. We talked novel.
Read Sappho. Read at least one of the pre-classical poets. Those are just so foundational and so early. Even in translation, I think they're very short, a lot of these fragments, and they encapsulate a lot of feeling. And they end up being the inspiration on the Greek side for all the Roman poetry too. So you can see the connections there.
I think Sappho is a solid recommendation there.
Yeah.
More so, I'd rather read Sappho than Catullus. If we're talking about,
In English, yeah.
emotive feeling.
Sappho doesn't have much that's preserved, and Catullus is so entertaining in Latin. Sappho is foundational.
Yeah, but I'm a prude, and Catullus is so like.
Oh yeah.
It's just.
Yep.
His lifestyle is not easy to sympathize with.
Well, he was very sad. He was a sad man. Very depressed.
He could be sad. He's twisted. It's like, I don't know. it's hard for me to like him.
Yeah. He does a great imitation of Sappho's poem about, I see Sappho's poem writes, I see you there sitting like, looking like a god, and it's this lovely romantic poem. And then Catullus takes it, and it's after he's been broken up with by his girlfriend that he calls Lesbia, named Lesbia, meaning of Lesbos, the island, which Sappho was Lesbia, which means a person from Lesbos, the island, a woman from Lesbos. So that's why she gets that nickname by Catullus in her honor. And then he goes on to see this one poem after he's been broken up with by Lesbia, that I see you there sitting next to him, and how he makes you laugh. And so he has this different perspective, this different take on it, and there's so much suffering in him because he's in the same social group of people. So this is why he has to see her and be at dinner with her.
Because she's someone else's wife, isn't she?
Well, yeah, that's actually the main problem.
I mean, it's a country song.
That's a country song,
right? Fire up the jukebox. I don't know. I could hear George Jones singing about this.
It could be. So, I think there's so much to offer that if you're curious at all, I can't think of it other than the Horrocks book, which is mostly about the linguistic transformation, but mentions the literature. Getting some kind of person who's written a book who will introduce you into this, and then you see something, oh, that interests me. I'm interested in 5th century BC Athens. I'm interested in 1st century BC Rome, and then you learn more about it, and then you want to read some of the primary sources or pieces of literature written in those time periods, and that's how you would get into it. And every person's different, so I think each person will find his or her own path.
Any translators you particularly like the style of?
I've read so little in translation. I think the Odyssey that I having just read is the most I've ever read in translation.
Okay.
This past in Greek or Latin.
Well, just in case you could steer someone toward like this person is reliably good or
I
good
like
at...
the Fagels and Fitzgeralds have done both the Greek and Latin epic, I think.
Okay.
And they're solid. You can depend on them being pleasant to read.
Okay.
As far as fidelity to the original, I haven't made direct comparisons.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a fun little intro. I mean,
Yeah.
a nice little tour of what's out there, which is, I think, more colorful and more varied than people often assume.
Yeah, it's worth getting into. I mean, our images, which are so affected by our knowledge from popular culture, are so shallow that until you actually read something, at least in translation, you don't really know what is there.
There's actually kind of an analogy here where, you know, we think of those statues as just being these white things, but in fact they used to be painted very colorfully.
They were painted, usually had some kind of a marble for the eyes.
Yeah.
The columns, the architecture, all of it was beautifully, brightly colored. And you know, the image of these, like Washington, D.C., for example, is very pretty, but it's of this neoclassical model which assumed that the ancient structures and statues were all just white or black marble or bronze,
Yeah.
but all of them were painted and colorful and burnished. And yeah, so our image of the past, until we get into it, is often quite black and white.
Yep. And getting that firsthand exposure is the way to dispel that and put some color in it.
And you're going to put some color into my understanding of Norse literature.
I'll do what I can.
Yeah, looking
Well,
forward
folks,
to that.
thanks for joining us. And we've had this ground squirrel just ruin himself the entire time. And from beautiful Colorado, we're wishing you Eroso.
Herroste.
Oh, that's right. I would have said it to one person.
That's
well,
fine.
take it as to you, whoever you are. Now I'm being Walt Whitman, right? All right.